Pokemon Colosseum, a game I remember fondly from my childhood. Running around a criminal city, fighting strange people and capturing shady Pokemon. Taking turns with my family to fight our way up Mount Battle. I recall it being a great time, but that was 20 years ago. While child Gabby may have loved Pokemon Colosseum, how does adult me feel about it? At the request of Elite member Jason, we get to find out. Explosions, thievery, that phase, a sick motorcycle. This is not your normal Pokemon game. After the heist, Miles, or whatever you decided to call your bad boy character, finds refuge at a rundown train, where a news story has already surfaced of our escapade. I'm not going to run through all the events of this game, just a few high points I actually have opinions on. As with most of my playthroughs, the live recording will be available on my collab channel, so check that out if it interests you. This place is the one location you can purchase Pokeballs in the entire game, as there are no wild Pokemon in this region. Everything you can catch comes from snagging the limited number of Shadow Pokemon. Honestly, the list of available Mons is not very compelling. You've got a bunch of non-evolving Gen 2 Mons, which I could see doing something in a single battle, but every fight in this game is doubles. These do not have the stats to survive doubles. We've got Umbreon out here with its 100 plus defenses barely living. They are just goners. Aside from the legendary beasts and your starter pick, the playthrough options are just bad. There's only 6 other Pokemon with a 500 or more base stat total, 3 of which are in the game's finale sequence. So you can't use them to beat the game unless you purposely lose the end fights. At one point, I was scouring my boxes for a flying type to take down the Ludicolo Maniac over here, but there just aren't any good flying Mons.
What?
I stand by what I said. On top of the Pokemon themselves being severely lackluster, the movesets are absolutely awful. Note, I am aware this is a Gen 3 problem, not just a Colosseum problem. Take Flygon, for example. The only ground move it gets is Sand Tomb, unless you want to use your one and only Earthquake TM on it. It could learn Dig by Technical Machine too, except that TM isn't in this game. In fact, quite a few decent TMs aren't here. Do you realize how many Mons would have benefited from Aerial Ace? But no, we can't have that. BTW, none of these flying types even learn a flying move. On top of that, this is a Gen 3 game, meaning the physical special split has not happened yet, making certain Pokemon that you'd think were pretty great really not. Like one of my favorites, Absol, as Dark is special while their stats are very physically inclined. A problem for Alligator and Entei also encounter, although to a much less offensive degree. Meanwhile, the only ghost type in the game suffers the opposite end of this spectrum, as its stab is physical. Adding on to the legendary Pokemon problems, for some diabolical reason, they decided to give super moves to the legends first, instead of the more reliable Spark and Flamethrower. Heck, I'd even settle for Ember and Thundershock over Fire Blast and Thunder. There were so many times I took unnecessary damage because J-Dog just would not hit his Fire Blast. Meanwhile, Suicune over here gets Surf, which you'd think is great. It hits only the opposing team in Gen 3 battles. That's a fantastic move. Surf pickles the opponents in this game. I cannot fathom how it does this level of bad, but it just does. This game is entirely about battling, from the trainer fights for the story, to the Colosseums in the major towns, all the way through to the 100 trainer gauntlet of Mount Battle. That is the core of this experience, and it is pain. I wish I could say that the battles felt exciting, rewarding, fun even, but I can't say that. I don't hate it. Really and truly, I don't. But when you are getting stun-locked by Attract Paralysis spam, demolished by Protect Quakes from Hell, or being ripped to shreds by a Crush Glass Slacking, it is hard to say you are having a good time. The battle side of this game is challenging simply because of the limitations of your Pokemon choices. The few good TMs you can obtain to make things easier are locked behind thousands of Poke coupons, meaning hours of grinding in Mount Battle. As of recording this video, I've gone up 70 floors of this mountain just to purify Suicune alone, which I suppose brings us to my thoughts on purifying Pokemon. When you capture a Shadow Pokemon, it'll have this bar where the experience normally would be. As you do certain actions like sending it into battle, walking around with them in your party, or massaging them with cologne, alright, it'll slowly drop off some of the bar, making their heart unlock over time. As these bars go down, more move slots are unlocked, so you no longer have to use only Shadow Rush, a typeless recoil dealing move that every Shadow Pokemon starts with. There are a bunch of hidden mechanics about Shadow Pokemon and these gauges, but I'm not getting into that. There's a video linked in the description with more details if you want a full explanation. The very basic idea is in order to unlock their heart, you need to actually use the Pokemon unless you plan to walk for hours. The truth is, if you want those TMs from Mount Battle, or the money to afford more colognes, or the experience to learn moves and continue the story, there's going to be a ton of grinding battles anyhow. Which, yeah, is tedious and certainly time consuming, but I will admit, watching that gauge go down is the most satisfying part of this game for me personally. It felt like I was actually making progress towards something, deepening my bonds with the Pokemon on the field. Money and coupons rack up in the background. You know you're earning them, but it doesn't feel rewarding. Meanwhile, that bar is right in front of you every single fight. When you call a Shadow Pokemon out of Hyper Mode and it loses a chunk of that purple you've been chipping away at, it feels good. Like you're making a real difference. As of now, I have purified 10 of the 48 total Shadow Pokemon. If you think I should save them all from their Hearts of Darkness, then hit subscribe. I'll purify all 48 and go through the 100 battles for Ho-Oh if we can reach 1,000 subscribers before 2025. The overarching storyline is to stop the evil team that's abusing Pokemon by turning them into the shadows, which you accomplish by beating up peons and admins and other random baddies. I just gotta make a side point here. What are these names? How did they decide all of these? Because they're just some crazy random things. There's a few clever ones I did like, such as the peon you are meant to walk all over being named Scrub, or the spy catchers named Cloak and Dagger, even though they're spelled wonky. It's just kind of wild and not at all important. Unlike these guys. If you've played Colosseum, you know Mirabee is just the coolest guy around. He is hip and happening, and I do love him. Dakim just makes me uncomfortable. Venus is alright. Pursuing her in the under through the subway section is funny. She thought that one through pretty well, only to drop the key you need as she runs away. Typical silly RPG oopsie, but I thought it cute. The very next sequence where these guys don't block you and instead just blow a hole in the floor of their lab is wild. Love the commitment. Bravo. Ein doesn't appear very often, but his files are nice little hints to how shadows work and explain why Cypher is in the places that they are. You spend the game going from town to town, beating up each admin's group and yoinking their shadow Pokemon, until eventually they finish constructing Relgam Tower, a giant building they hope to conquer the world from using the entertainment value of shadow Pokemon battles to amass a fortune in the Colosseum, and then, I don't know, take each region by force. The plan beyond make lots of money and continue corrupting Pokemon is big. Inside the tower, there's rematches for all the big bads and this guy. Remember him from the opening sequence? He's the head of Team Snag'em. We don't see him for the entire game until he appears just before the ending gauntlet to reveal Snag'em works with Cypher. Honestly, this doesn't really add anything to the story. I suppose it ties up loose ends that both evil organizations will be done for if you win. It really feels like Team Snag'em was merely a plot device to explain why the Snag Machine even exists. As all 4 of the pre-trainers have a shadow Pokemon to capture, the ending sequence is truthfully a test of endurance. Your Pokemon don't get healed between the pre-trainer fights, so if they take you a bit to catch, you are seriously depleting your final boss resources. At least if you play in the standard way. I used an exploit to have infinite Master Balls, so I can't really say I felt the brunt of that problem. The only one I captured the normal way was Absol, as I wanted it in a Premier Ball. Nazgor waits as the 5th battle. He's been made out to be the leader of Cypher from the start. Although, in my opinion, we see him way too early in the game to make this even the least bit interesting. His vibe screams, "I'm the bad guy." There's literally a cutscene that shows him on a monitor speaking to known Cypher members. He isn't climactic and mysterious like an RPG final boss should be. Now you could say that's fine because the end reveal of, "Oh no, evil mayor," is supposed to be that haha moment. Naz is not the big bad boss after all, but just doesn't hit. Like, you really wanted us to be surprised by this when Nazgor literally exited the mayor's office at the start of the game. And not too long later, Mirror B was also a welcome guest to just hang in his house. Of course he's not a good mayor. He is a terrifyingly strong battler though. The final fight is absolutely brutal. The level jumps to 60, he has multiple Earthquake users, he'll pop X attacks, he can skill swap the damn Slacking to just demolish everything it touches. This fight is insane! I literally left and made a full new team to fight this. Overall, the story is fine. I really don't expect a lot from Pokemon games in that department. There's evil people doing bad things to Pokemon. Stop them through less than legal means and save the day. It's basic, but it works. If I had no outside knowledge from the guidebook or other Pokemon titles and just judged this game on its own as is, I still think it's a great game. For me, saving all of the shadow Pokemon that are being wronged by Cypher is motivation enough to push through the story. The journey to rescue their hearts from the clutches of darkness makes the grind of hundreds of battles a lot more bearable. If I didn't know of the garbage movesets in Gen 3 games, I wouldn't feel that as a big issue, so I'm not holding it against the game. I came up with this rating scale a long time ago, and I'm confident I can place Pokemon Colosseum at a solid 8. It's not super lengthy to get through the main content, even if some grinding is essentially required to create a real team and ultimately beat Evice, and while I'm not a fan of the lineup, it does promote the use of underwhelming mons that would otherwise rarely see use in another game. The world's atmosphere is fantastic, from the moodiness of the Under to the lushness of Agate. Having Pokeballs only available in a secluded train restaurant, making them feel like a big deal to obtain, is very good. And the animations. Oh man, the animations. They may slow the game a lot, but they are filled to the brim with soul, and I absolutely love it. I still have to dock points for the insane level jumps of the endgame and the amount of hacks the final zone fights throw at the player, along with how criminally little damage some moves do. What is this, dude? Suicune has to live with this till 71. Thanks to Jason for recommending I play Colosseum, and thanks to you for watching me talk about it. Please do the YouTube things. They are free and they really help me out. And here's hoping you have a lovely